How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel.
So at this point in the video, we basically, kind of messed up and deleted some of the footage, but right now I have the ledger board attached to the building. I cut a 4-degree angle on the end of that 2x6, I dug it down into the ground, and now we are toe-nailing it to that ledger board. Basically at this point, I'm trying to keep it from pulling away from the building, and I don't think I need to use any joist hangers because that gravel is transferring all that weight down to the ground and supporting everything there. It's time to go ahead and measure out 16 on center. Unfortunately, I had to cut this board a little bit shy of 8 foot, so we will not be even across the entire way here. Our last little bit will be spaced pretty close together, but that's just how it is. I also unfortunately was, a board off here and a board off there, so I couldn't finish the project, but I had to go back to the store anyway. Instead of creating a pattern, I did the right thing and measured each one of these and cut a length and put that 4-degree angle on the end of those here. This is not a tutorial on how to use a square, but there's a lot of useful pieces that you can get from using one of these. And if you know your rise over run, you can figure out the angle you're cutting it all at and just go from there. Using the DeWalt Circular Saw, this thing's super handy. That nice 5 amp hour battery just does a great job. Not to drag anything out there. No extension cords. So as we get them cut here, I set them down into place. This whole sub base was pretty well packed, but it's a little high in these spots. As I work farther towards this north, I kind of have to work down in here to get rid of all the excess, just to make sure it's even all the way down. I'm going to have to put a little bit up here against the ledger board just because it's a little low. I did snap a line clear across that ledger board just to make sure the top of my 2x6 is starting in the right spot so I can keep things level and true to themselves as I work down this. What's nice about using the clean rock, this stuff does pack, but it doesn't pack so hard that you can't move it later. This flat shovel does a good job, and using my size 12 earth pounder, it really compacts it down. All joking aside, I did use that hand tamper there behind me to do most of all this, so don't worry. Worst case is I made the mistake. I have to come back and fix it later, but just trying to get an eyeball to where I need to be at. I do have this all lined up, but just want to make sure I'm starting in the right spot. I got the right gravel where I need it, and we'll work the rest of the way down this piece. So it's probably good to mention at this point, I am using 6-foot long 2x6s, well, technically a 12-foot section. I cut it into 2 pieces, and we're using those as the main stringers coming off from the ledger board. We'll come back here and I attach them to that ledger board, which is a 2x8 cut down to fit that opening. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and cut this final board on the outside, get the thing cut the length, and we're going to toss it down here in the trench. Noticeably, you can see that trailer there full of dirt. I had to dig down a little bit to make sure I had room to get this board down in there. We'll get this covered back in with some fabric, as you'll see here shortly. And basically by doing that, there's going to be really no excessive gravel underneath the end of this. Ideally, you'd probably want a couple inches of gravel there. But since I am supporting this entire structure with gravel, 90% of it anyways, I think this last little bit we can get away with. And it's sitting on top of that Geotextile there, so it really can't go too far anyways. Throwing a few GRKs in here, like I mentioned. You'll see we've got that fabric tucked back under this outside board now. But I'm putting 3 2.5-inch screws in each one of these boards for now. We'll come back and add a larger 5/16 GRK screw. Probably excessively overkill, but I've got them, so I'm gonna use them. What's the worst thing that happens? I keep talking about GRK. No, this video is not sponsored whatsoever, but they make a good fastener, and I've had good luck with them in the past. So I'm gonna keep buying a product I know that works, because it's just when it's tried and true and doesn't give you problems, it's hard to fight it. Each one of these boards, I used a square here, like you see me doing time lapse there, just to make sure it's square. I should have laid this out probably, but I didn't really care to, and this works. All right, we got all that gravel filled in. I put some extra on top there just to keep the fabric down that I pulled up. This looks great. We basically have got ground contact the entire way out with the gravel. I packed it all down with the hand tamper over there last night. And so now I'm gonna put these 4-inch 5/16 GRK lag screws. They're stronger than 1/2-inch lags. I'm gonna put one in each end just to make sure. I put a few screws in it, but just to make sure this thing lasts over time. Overkill of screws doesn't hurt, right? I mean, for the extra $1 that it costs. Note to self, make sure you use good bits. I'm using a cheapo there and strip that one out. Doesn't do any good to use good screws or use cheap bits. It's a little funny, but not really, that I mentioned cheap bits. These screws come with a new star drive bit or a torque step, whatever you want to call it. And well, I happened to grab the wrong one, so let's just pretend like it was fine. We're just throwing in a few lag screws here, like I mentioned, the larger ones. Since I'm not using the actual hangers, we're going to just toenail these together. Also throwing some through the face of the actual ledger board. I had some smaller ones in it, but we wanted to just make sure we got some larger ones in there as well. These things work great. I mentioned the screws a few times already, but the no drill, they don't split. We have all sorts of benefits by using some of this stuff. It takes less, power to drive them in. Getting closer to the end here, let's start laying all the deck boards out here on top. Just trying to get an idea of what we have. Make sure I have all the boards I need. We're running the crown up here, running the actual high point to the top, so we don't have any cups on the boards and water sits on them. And just trying to make sure we have these laid out as well as possible. And if there's any questionable spots with knots, we want those facing down. Go ahead and rake a little bit back here with the shovel to help fill in and hold things in place. Unfortunately, the camera died. Go figure. But the deck boards are on. My life story, I'm one board short. You guys act like you're surprised. Anyway, I'm gonna have to get one more board, and some of you may be thinking I'm doing way overkill for a shed like this. However, the reason I put this 8-foot door in here is to be able to put my tractor in here. And it, with a tiller on it, weighs over 3,000 pounds. So I know all of it's not going to be on this at one time, but I want to make sure that, it's not going to go anywhere. Because that's the last thing I want to do is be backing up there and just crunch right through it. Anyways, I'm going to wait to do that until I get the last deck board on, but I want to try it out. So I'm going to go get the ZTR mower, throw it in here. If it can hold that weight, it's going to. That's a good start, and then we'll work up from there. Happy with how this is turning out. It's slightly unsquare, so I've got a little bit tapered on this side. The boards are all hanging off the long end or short end over there. We'll trim that up at another date, or just close our eyes and pretend like it's straight. It's probably the way we'll do it. Anyways, let's go get the lawnmower, throw it up on here, and but overall, I'm really happy with how this is turning out. It's nice and sturdy. it's not going anywhere. That's positive. No bounce. It's all dead. Here, transferring to the ground. That's what we want. So grab the mower. Perfect. Almost like it was meant to get stuff in the shed. Awesome. All right, I'll catch up with you guys here in a little bit. I'm gonna get this other deck board, we'll put it on here, and I'll give you one more once over what we did and how it turned out. Well, it's time to see if, you know, the ramp's strong enough. Doing some rearranging this morning. I got that final deck board to put on. It's a little frosty out. We got the tractor here. We're gonna put the tiller up in there on its little dolly so we can scoot it around, but we got it all completed. And some of the gravel raked up to it. We need to do a little bit more final grading here. But let's see what we can do. I'll pull this out of the way. Well, I gotta be honest. What you just saw there in the camera falling, followed by some curse words, was a direct result of something that probably could have been avoided. Now, the ramp worked great. And like I mentioned, that last clip you saw where the camera fell over, things went south. And when I mean south, it made my day really bad. Let me show you what happened. Now, I had this roll-up door all the way up. If you're wondering why that's loud, there is a draft piece up there on the top to keep the snow and wind from blowing in. But, you know, I'll give you a hint. Well, as I was pulling in here to set the tiller down, which is now over here out of the way, the roll bar caught that rope. There's a big pop sound, and to be honest, I about lost my cool. It's a garage door that had only been installed for 24 hours, and I thought for sure that I junked it. What happened was it ended up popping the track. It was down just a little bit, but the roll bar is only 7 foot tall. So, you know, I should have a foot of clearance here above the roll bar. What happened was that top roll bar caught this rope and pulled it. Thankfully, somehow just yanked it out of this side, didn't bend any sheet metal. I think it tweaked this bottom piece here, but, you know, I don't know what it looked like beforehand. It almost looks too intentional to be damaged like that. Got away with just a very small, you know, whammo in there. And a little bit of small damage to the slide pad that supports it. But overall, I got very lucky. So why am I telling you this? When you're doing something new and you think everything's perfectly fine, double, triple check things like, you know, this can't get caught on your tractor and ruin your day. Luckily enough, I didn't destroy the door and was able to fix it without any real consequences, but just be super, super cautious is all I'm telling you. Even though I was being careful, I was worried about, you know, dumping this tiller out on the ground because there's a little, you know, maybe I should have strapped it on there. I don't know. Just telling you this, be careful and be extra aware of your surroundings when doing something new. And even though, you know, if I would have just stopped short like I was planning on doing and just set the pallet down, I would have been fine. But, you know, I decided to bring it in the rest of the way. And it just about ruined my Sunday. This is the final setup. This is a couple days later. I've been traveling, not been around, but wanted to, share with you guys here the final result. It turned out really well. Like I mentioned before, I'm going to put some 1x8s to fill these sections in on the side, but she is sturdy. It isn't going anywhere. We got support all the way down, buried down into the ground, and it turned out really well. Very happy with how it turned out. So let me know what you guys think. I feel like this ramp turned out really well. I don't know how I would do it any differently. Again, I want this to last long term, and I think the way I've built it, it's gonna last. I'll put links down below to some of the stuff we used here, the rakes, the GRK Fasteners, and all that fun stuff. But I hope you guys found this video informative and helpful, and maybe inspires you to get some of this done with your shed. And again, learn some of the stuff the hard way so you don't have to. This is the first time I've done something like this where I almost destroyed something new. But hey, we're all human, and I'm here to share my mistakes with you all as I make them, because, well, that's what I do. I make mistakes like everyone else. Prefer to share with you guys. If you guys found today's video informative and helpful, I would greatly appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. If you didn't like the video, give me a thumbs down. Give me some feedback what I could do to make this better. And give me some ideas for stuff you like to see around the house, property, outdoors. We're lucky. I know it is December, but we've had some pretty warm weather. So I'm trying to get a few things done, get the shed filled up with stuff so I can get some space freed up in the studio shop, I'm calling it. The shop over there. So I have space to film and record in the wintertime. Thanks for stopping in. Take care of one another. Until next time, I'll see you guys.